Rights Commission meeting. I'm Donita Fry, the Human Rights Chair. Hey, sir.
Oh, hi, I'm Barry Joe. This is what I look like without my hat. I'm going to put it back on. I was at City Council this morning as part of our opportunity we have here in the city to sign up for a 3-minute communication. And the topic I signed up under was how homelessness triggers abuse. And as part of my 3-minute presentation, I told of how the situation with people being homeless creates opportunities for people to be abusive when they should be, in many instances, remedial. An example I gave the City Council, which this body should be well interested in, is that the sit-lie ordinance, the sidewalk management obstruction, whatever we're going to call it, the most recent version, was passed by the City Council illegally. Now I know this body opposed it, and that's all good, but I'm talking about they didn't have a quorum. And the reason that they didn't have a quorum was because they conflated down at City Hall the emergency ordinance, which means things are so horrible that we absolutely have to pass this ordinance now. That's an emergency provision. Something's dire, something's pressing. Then there's the other thing that happens when an earthquake or tsunami hits, and the city council members aren't able to get to City Hall, and then they could have other ways of communicating to participate in the meeting, including to make their votes. That's what they did. Commissioner Saltzman attended the meeting, left the meeting, and then phoned in his vote. They didn't invoke the magic words that made that telephone vote legal, because they have to do that at the beginning of the meeting. It's all part of the charter. There's no mystery about it. I've researched it. I went on the internet. I watched the hearing proceedings to make sure that that flaw, I'm calling it, was actually a flaw. And they had no legal basis to pass the ordinance, which is now, I understand, been enforced now since it went into effect, without any legal basis. See, that's my point. I'm trying to get you all excited about how something that you were opposed to because it was just a bad idea, you now can have wiped off the map because it was done illegally. My problem is, as a person living in the city of Portland, on one hand, I've got way too much credibility. On the other hand, the message that I deliver is one that falls on deaf or retaliatory ears. In the year 2003, I had an encounter with the Portland police. I said, I'm protected under the Medical Marijuana Act. I'll beat you in court. The officer put that in his police report and then went off and fatally shot and killed an unarmed black motorist. That was more important to the district attorney's office and the Portland Police Bureau and the city of Portland as an entity than my little civil rights. So as my appeal of that conviction was pending, the Court of Appeals ruled on the issue of the case law that was used against me, and they ruled that it was obsolete, made obsolete by the very Medical Marijuana Act. At the time I appeared at this trial here in Multnomah County in 2004, I personally had my own Supreme Court case, Stoll versus Hoke, and my neurologist had a Supreme Court case, Jennings versus Baxter Healthcare, about his qualifications as an expert witness, having operated a brain research laboratory in a case where one of the defendants was Dow Chemical, firm you may have heard of. The Multnomah County Circuit Court found that Dr. Grimm wasn't able to testify. Then both the Court of Appeals and the Oregon Supreme Court ruled that Dr. Grimm was able to testify in that Jennings versus Baxter Healthcare case, bringing those defendants, including Dow Chemical and other moneyed interests, into the liability that they escaped on first blush down here at the courthouse. I myself had a case that I filed. It was a legal gray area. The Oregon Supreme Court resolved it in part in 1997. And as my appeal of my conviction was playing out, knowing it was based on obsolete case law, I was drawn into an eviction where I appealed that. I mentioned I have a Supreme Court case. I know how to appeal. I was locked out of my house, pending appeal. There was a stay. I was supposed to be able to keep my apartment provided I paid the rent. I wasn't able to do that because I was locked out, 6 months or so later, I proved that I had been locked out in violation of that stay pending appeal. The day the Court of Appeals made that order, the Multnomah County Sheriff and the landlord entered the house, and the landlord took a week to destroy everything in it to the tune of $15,000, which I've received nothing for. Locked out of my house illegally, everything in the apartment destroyed, I received nothing for it. I proved all that, the landlord did it the second time. Now, a year ago, Judge Edward Jones ordered that the landlord pay me $4,775, which was the value of my musical instruments and tools destroyed illegally the second time. No other damages. No damages under the Landlord Tenant Act. No damages doing this as retaliation for me standing up for my civil rights. No contempt of court for interfering with my ability to appeal any of these other things. So it's a rigged game as far as I'm concerned. But it's not a rigged game as far as I'm concerned, bringing you truthful and accurate information. They didn't have a quorum. The sidewalk management ordinance that this body already found was a human rights violation was also a violation of the city charter. They acted without authority. Just like if you had this meeting today down at McDonald's and we all showed up here, that wouldn't be legal for 2 or 3 of you to go down to McDonald's. You wouldn't have a quorum, and it wouldn't be legal, and whatever you did down there wouldn't, because it wouldn't be legal. So I'm quite passionate about this, but this is the first opportunity I've had because I'm sick. I have a spinal cord injury. It's second only to cancer pain, and it's difficulty to manage. I'm really tired because I don't have any peace. As I'm as likely to be abused. I have a trial pending. I have to go into court on Friday morning again because once I was tried, the judge threw the case out, and it was Lewis and Clark College who produced the lawyer who filed the landlord's case illegally, produced the judge who allowed the landlord to get away with throwing out my property illegally, produced the attorney who represented the landlord on my damages. All these folks have to do with Lewis and Clark College, where I was assaulted by campus safety on August 28th. They threw me on the ground, dragged me across the pavement, intentionally ground my head into the pavement, on the paving stone. As a musician, it was unreal to hear the sound of my head being ground on the paving stones from the inside. These people are off the hook. The Portland police are completely out of line. I don't have to tell you that. You all know that, or you wouldn't be part of this body. The city government is out of line. You all know that because that's what your frustrations are about. I need somebody to step up. Somebody that's not me, because they're beating the hell out of me, literally, figuratively. They destroyed my life's work. I went to the Library of Congress 5 times. I was in the process of writing a book. They knew I was in the process of writing that book when I was locked out illegally, and all that research was hauled to the dump in broad daylight with no consequences. Oregon State Bar won't take action. The Attorney General, he's associate professor at Lewis and Clark College. So I just want to let you all know that. I have an email. I did prepare a document last summer about how persons with disabilities have no civil rights in the state of Oregon. The agencies that you would expect to do that in the state of Oregon, Bureau of Labor and Industries, I have a criminal trespass. Went to court, judge found not guilty. They didn't have a case. They arrested me, took me to jail from the office that's supposed to be representing me as a person with disabilities, and those people violated my civil rights. So this is quite sickening. It's quite sickening, and my experience is that this is terrorized. This is terrorism, and it has terrorized anybody that would step up to help me. I can't get an attorney in this city and state that's going to take any of these issues, including the United States Attorney for the District of Oregon, that knows this violates federal law, because they have this little complication where medical marijuana violates federal laws, and they somehow can't bring themselves to protect me as a person with a disability if that muddies that issue. So, sorry for being so passionate, so long-winded. I am, but I'm also very well informed. and I would like this body to treat me like a resource. So anything I can do to help you identify the fact that this ordinance that you opposed was done illegally.
Thank you very much for sharing the information. We don't normally speak to public comment, but be assured that it all goes down into record and gets available for consideration. Is there